All right, so this is Francis Hunt. This is the Bullpen Podcast. If I had anybody I could interview right now in the world, it would be the Francis Hunt. I mean that. This guy's helped me out over probably the last 5 or 6 years. The first time I heard him, I was watching the Palisade Radio, and probably I was listening to your past. I think you were 5 or 10 minutes in, and I was like, this guy's different than anybody. And listen, I've listened to all of them. You know, Ray Dalio, Stanley Druckenmiller. I've listened to all the financial gurus. Nobody holds a candle to this man right here. And the reason why, because he tells the truth. And you're never going to see him on CNN. You're never going to see him on the big financial networks. And so I wanted to share that with you. And like I said, man, I really appreciate the opportunity you're giving me. And they always say you're not supposed to do this, is meet your heroes. So I'm going to go ahead and break the rules anyways. And I just really, man, to be honest with you, what I wanted to interview you from is you did an interview with James Dillingpot, I think it was, right when COVID's first cracked off. And it was one of the best, I guess, it was about an hour and a half, but it was the best summary of what we had going on. So I don't want to waste any time. The only person that I know that can talk more than you is me. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to make it short, but I just wanted you to kind of share. I want to send my friends, my family to this interview so I can say, hey, this is what's going on. This is where we are. This is where we're going. I didn't want to waste a lot of your time. So if you're good with that.
100%. And thank you for the intro. It's very kind words. We just try to be as principle focused as possible. You don't get to choose the times you're born into, but you do get to choose how you behave in that environment. And live a life of principle, be a man of principle, hold yourself to that account, and then the cards will fall where they fall. Don't be a coward when people need you to speak up. Don't be a coward when people need you to give their podcast some guests. Everyone will say, don't help the little guys. Don't do. I'm here. Everybody's helped me along my way in life, and I stopped and started, and I fumbled and bumbled all the way through my existence until I found my pure passion. And I was very much a late bloomer. And this is incredible times we live in. There's so much that has to be said. So you tell me where you want me to shine the light, and I'll go there for you.
I want to talk to the man on the street. Listen, I know you get deep in the weeds. By the way, I've subscribed. I've been watching. You've made me money. You've saved me money.
Great, thank you.
I'm more of the reset sniper. I like that side of things more. And so I want to tell the average guy, I don't want to do the financial gurus. I'm trying to save the man on the street, you know, that work for a living. They don't have time. They don't understand. And, you know, I've even changed a lot of, you're either making content or you're consuming content. And I know you're the same way. You don't have time to consume it. So I haven't had time to really consume it because I've changed what I'm doing now. So I see now where people who don't focus on the financials can get lost in the sauce. So I just wanted you to explain, hey, why is my groceries doubling? And just kind of, I guess, just real quick summary. We're trying to save the man on the street in the elevator. I want you to say, hey, how we got here, where we're at, and what hour we're in. If you can, just quick summary so I can shoot everybody to this interview and say, hey, listen, this guy knows what's going on, and just want to help everybody out with that.
Absolutely. There's a small group of people that are controlling largely the macro financial and social aspects of the existence we have. They're getting ever stronger, and technology is connecting them at an ever greater rapid rate. But one thing that certainly comes out from very long time ago is that there's been this oppressive force to subordinate the majority of the people to the benefit of the few. And every system that tells you democracy, you know, it's all a sales line. Most of what you hear about history has been tampered with to varying degrees. Despite that, we get it hammered into us as young children very early. Ref the financial, because you asked about groceries, but this actually spills into all topics, but otherwise we'll be here too long. So you asked for the quick flyby, and that's what I'll give you. They are proliferating money at an ever escalating rate. It is an absolute parabola. And when I say they, it's everybody. By the way, our largest audience is our American audience. Love the American people. Love visiting their beautiful country. Most of the time, I'm in your great open spaces like Moab, Utah, the beautiful Colorado, whatever the case may be, not the urban areas. But there's a lot that has been driven through America during this era. So a criticism of state is not a criticism of you. Please understand that, and many of you understand that, and you don't align with your president and everything else. That minor disclaimer out the way. At the moment, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, which is essentially one works supposedly for the government, the other actually represents a private institution that is owned by banks. But it says federal so that you think it's governmental, and it says a reserve because you make it think that there's a big old Fort Knox of money or loot or some asset. It's actually a negative equity toxic bank. But let's park that point for a while because they've been given this mandate of great authority to borrow and to allow other banks to borrow money into existence when you do that. And they've proliferated policies that have seen an exorbitant debt be accumulated. The net effect of this is that money itself is devaluing. There's too much debt. Money is borrowed into existence. It is devaluing. So that means the buying power of that money is going down. It doesn't mean that cocoa, coffee, petrol, oil, gas, as you would say, stateside, has suddenly become extremely much more hard to find. And you'll always see a news that says, oh, there was floods in Brazil, that's why your coffee's gone up. There's this. It never goes back down. Have you noticed that? And the key aspect of that is you are being whittled away. If you look at the value of gold to the dollar since the inception of the Federal Reserve, 1913, you've got about 1% of your buying power left that you used to have on a dollar, 1 cent or left buying power in a dollar. So that means if you held a dollar from 1913 to today, you would buy with 1 cent what you used to buy with a dollar then. They would buy with that single cent, they would get something, and you would need a full dollar to do it today, to invert it
Frog
around.
in the pot. It's the frog in the pot.
That's right.
Because you can
some
say
of the
that.
Greatest forces. Yeah, go ahead. Jump in.
When you say that, though, people really don't understand what you're saying. Like, we could sit right there and talk about that for hours. 1% of what that dollar was worth, and this is what we talk about. This isn't something that's going to happen. It's really already happened. At the end of the day, we're like you said, we're so far into the that this is just the last ramping up. I don't want to interrupt there. Just wanted to say,
no,
you just brush by that, and people just hear it, and they really don't realize what that means. You literally are just being robbed blind. Yeah,
100%. It is robbery by sleight of hand, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's the most cunning, deceitful robbery. There's one thing.
I want to stop you one more time. I got to stop you with this.
Go on, jump in.
Warren Buffett, Stanley Druckenmiller, all these billionaires, they know this. They're not going to tell you this. See, this is why Francis Hunt. That's why I'm tooting your horn. You've helped me so much, and even in the alternative financial, that where I found you at, they still don't do what you do with this, really, because they still toe the line. And I know we're not going to throw names out, but there's a lot of guys that you interview and stuff, and they still have to toe a line. And this is why I resonate with you, because at the end of the day, they're scared to say these things all the way out. So I just always appreciated that about you, that, hey, listen, even if it costs you money, even if it costs you clients, your main goal is the truth. And you've always said this, and I've always loved this about you. You always look where you're wrong. That was my favorite part of you. Is like, hey, listen, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? Because at the end of the day, we're all wrong about something. We're shooting towards truth. We're always shooting towards truth. Of course, we always know we don't know everything. And this is why I've always appreciated you. Is, hey, listen, you would make a claim, and you say, listen, but we're going to look where we're wrong. We're going to try to figure out where we're wrong. And when you do that, you're always going to be closer to the truth. So just wanted to say that this is why, you're Warren Buffett, all these people that these guys are praising, all these financial gurus, Stanley Druckenmiller, Ray Dalio, they know this stuff, and they're not going to tell you. They're going to use little words, and they're going to try to, make it cute. But at the end of the day, you're in the final hour, you're getting robbed, you're getting raped, and Francis Hunt's the only one here to tell you that. So I just wanted to plug you again. And I appreciate that for all those times you've done that.
Absolute pleasure. And jump in whenever you need.
Yeah.
It truly is 2 minutes to midnight, by the way, Lane. It truly is 2 minutes to midnight in terms of this. Essentially, we are seeing a slow motion crash that many people don't even realize is in fact a crash. But everybody will remember the Lehman moment of subprime, but they didn't realize that we were sliding into it. It was accelerating, and then something big broke, as the weight gets bigger, and then a whole other bunch of things started to break.
I do
Because
have a question. I got a question for you. Okay. So I know we'd study like Evergrande, and you would see all these things blow up, and then the banks in California. I got a question for you, and this is kind of how I see it playing out, because I always play these scenarios. Do you not see these moments? There's a big moment. Of course, they're going to cover it up. Inflation's going to go up more. They're going to be a big moment. They're going to cover it up, inflate, and it's just going to be a slow. Do you think we're just going to grind all the way to nothing? Or do you think they're going to flip the switch? Russia hacked the banks, and then we're going to do the flipping. And do you see that? I know we're jumping in, but I got to ask this question personally, because that's what I play in my mind. And I know we don't know. Yeah. What do you see?
It's very much like an avalanche. You have small at first. I was going to give you the Ernest Hemingway quote about when asked about how he went bankrupt. He said, slowly, and then suddenly very fast. And that's kind of how it goes, because you have lots of assets and you have big debts, and you can sell something off and pay Peter to Paul and all of that. Suddenly you start to run out of the real juice, and then things get really ugly. And that's when it feels like things happen very fast. But it was always on the cards. If you looked at the direction, you were flying into a mountain without changing elevation or turning left or right, you're going to hit the mountain. But it's suddenly when you see the mountain and it's like that, and you realize that you're below, the top of the mountain, that you suddenly realize,
so it's not going to be a slow grind. This is going to happen all at once. Yeah.
There are slow grinds that are in that. And I would argue we're already in the fairly not so slow grind, but many people still not noticing it. But then there's going to be sheer capitulation, which is event driven. And that'll be a major bank failing potentially, or it will be a sudden hot war. And I'm not talking like Russia, Ukraine, sort of this low tempo bleed out war. Like a vicious one, with explosions, maybe events based inside your own country's borders that are big, taking heavy headcount. I also refer to the controlled demolition of the economy. It's a phrase I use intentionally because of another event that very much was a controlled demolition, and I'm pretty sure you know which one I'm referring to, and how, it sat there burning for a bit. And there's a problem, and there's something, but everyone could have got out of that building if that's all that ever happened.
But
when the squibs started going off, and suddenly you had a handful of floors successfully just pancaking through the rest, just like their butter, and going into free fall, you're going, that's the capitulation bit. And it also is the orchestrated bits, because just before you saw the squibs of all the explosives and the dancing Israelis with their removal truck, and you realize, hang, there's a bunch of people that have been bushwhacking us here in our hometown. And we don't like that so much. And you're getting the financial equivalent of that 9/11 event. And I do that in parallel by intent, because there's a long foreplay of planning, preparation, security stand downs, dust on tables while people were drilling in their empty floors, picture salesmen from Israel camping out there for 9 months. There was much longer period in preparation than you realize.
You can go back all the way to 93, even before that, the 87 or the 76 where they wrote the books about it, like I said. And I had an interview recently with another guy, and I would always catch myself trying to debate people that had no knowledge of the situation. And then I just had to realize, hey, listen, I'm here to help the people that want help. And at the end of the day, you can't convince somebody that don't want to be convinced, and I don't argue with people who don't have evidence, or, I've studied 9/11 for 10 years straight, and there's just so much that, one 30-minute study will flip everything as far as what you believe. So, and that's what I'm trying to do with this interview, of showing people, like, the people that are going to hear are going to hear. And this is what you've realized. You tell the truth. It's going to offend the most. And we're probably speaking to less than 1% of the population. And if you're trying to talk to those 99 about truth, it's just not going to work. So I quit, trying to water things down as you have. And you find your tribe when you do this. If you would have, on that first interview I heard you on, if you would have been, you probably turned most of the people off by what you said. But you're going to
Yeah.
find the real ones, the authentic ones, the genuine. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to agree with everybody on everything. I don't know. You may know a little bit more than I do about a subject, I don't understand why people can't learn from somebody. It's so crazy. So just wanted to say that. Yeah, for sure.
And I want to say on that point, I had people that I looked up to that were running good businesses, and they always walked the middle line, because they got a corporate client, and I spit them out like poison. They walked the middle line on this COVID event, saying, "Oh, why do we have to fight? And who's pro-vaccine?" They wanted to fence it. And it's all about keeping everyone on board, and that line of thinking. I am absolutely Marmite, as they say in the UK, which is a weird black spread that you spread on toast. You either love it or you hate it, and it looks like grease, car grease. I'm absolutely Marmite. You either love it or you hate it,
That's
but you're going to get it exactly how it is. And the key element is there's, I would rather have an intense, deeply impassioned community of complete alignment than a defragmented, broad church of normies of all variety and color that have no concept of what's going on, because I just walk the middle line and tell everybody, let's play nice. You'll know that when the events were coming, the CV19 in August already, we called the oil crash, and I said there's a major event coming. And the minute they started with this flu nonsense, I said this is going to be such a big event for my oil call to come. Is they're probably going to push some big disease story, and the main aspect of that will be a cure that they will design in record time, and it'll be a vaccine, and you're to say no. This is before any discussion was had.
I want to stop you. I want to stop you. I want to stop you. Please, as simple as you can explain this for the listeners. How do you do that? Just real quick, as simple as you can say, because I try to explain to people what you do and how you do it. Real quick, where you can see things that don't match up, and how you can call something like COVID. You didn't know what was coming, but you said these things aren't lining up. Just real quick, as simple as you can. How are you doing that?
So understanding a lot about history and doing some reading sure helps. I know the well poisoners. I know they like to poison. In actual fact, as I was talking about cheating you through deception and through the compound interest and the proliferating, putting you as a monkey on a grease pole on the financial system, in the same way, they don't come up to you and beat you up. They are cowards by deception. They don't come up to you even necessarily and shoot you in the head. They will choose to kill you by poison. It's because it's deniable plausibility. They're not there. They're not on site. There's a delay to when you fall sick and everything. So they are tricksters. They are not in your face like the guy you would have a pub brawl with who called you out or whatever the case may be. They're by deception. Remember, if you ever shoot somebody, you're within a certain distance radius. They like plausible deniability. They're essentially cowards, and they're also very self-preservational and smart and sneaky.
Yeah. So tell them how you see it through the charts. Through the charts, you can see all of this. What they're doing.
I want to see about the reset side, not so much.
I want to see you physically, how you can look at a chart and tell these people, hey, I don't know what's happening. And see, that's the proof that if somebody sees that, they could say, okay, I could link this and see where it's coming, because I remember this and I'll vouch for you. Obviously, you don't need me to, but you can go back years and watch all Francis's stuff and the calls he's made the whole time. And so that's the physical proof I want to share to people. Hey, listen, this is how Francis saw it on the charts, and this is how it works. Because people that don't know. But I just wanted to show how you could see something like this coming. And, even, I don't know if the 9/11 thing, where the airliners, where they could tell, you can look at these charts and realize this doesn't make sense. These insiders are selling. And I just wanted to show physical proof of like how you knew COVID or some event like that was going to happen.
I
Because
didn't
when you
call 9/11. I'll tell you straight up, I didn't call 9/11. I was surprised as everybody else by it. What was shown up in the financial markets, ref 9/11, though, of great interest was the fact that there was insider selling of airliners to a massive, massive degree. And that came out afterwards, and it came to my attention really early because I watched the financials. And in terms of that, that was a big, wow, they're even going to do that. And they very, very quickly closed that story up. It was
yeah.
announced early on when they didn't have full coverage, when they were doing Muslim man bad as the reason
Oh yeah,
why.
yeah. I think yeah,
And then the
Osama bin
minute it
Laden.
came out, it was this boutique they could trade. But let's be clear, if you have options for sale on the market, it's quite clear. Somebody owns it. A corporation or I have gone short. It's traceable because you can't get the profits if there isn't somebody, a human being that hasn't been KYC'd, or a corporation that has active beneficiaries and parties. And the minute that showed up, that it was that small boutique that was actually owned by Deutsche Bank, operating out of New York, that actually had an ex-CIA CEO at the helm, that just went shut down. That was a bit like the BBC moment calling the fifth building has already fallen, and there it was still in the background, and they jumped their queue on the information. Someone was told around about this time that's going to fall, and they were, it was a chaotic day. They ran a little bit behind the schedule. They had their cues. Okay, BBC, round about this time, you come on out and say, shock, horror, this other building's fallen. And they actually got a live backdrop of the entire World
Solomon
Trade
Brothers.
Center. And there it is, still standing up. And nobody's yet hit the plunder. So, I mean, whenever you do these kind of mass operations, Mossad run operations, and they were invariably the ultimate controllers in here, you get stuff ups. And that's why they do drills. And in fact, that's why they also told the planes they want to drill for crashing into a building, so that they would have that inherent confusion when things went live. It was like, what? We were drilling this. What do you mean? It's real? It's happening? It's like, it's perfect. So there's no one who talks about it. It stops the leak of the information beforehand because it's just another exercise. So that whole thing was really interesting. You asked two parts in your last question that I haven't really dealt with. And the one was, how did you see that? And that's through charting and looking at the markets. And we looked at the oil market, and I was desperate to try get my, that's why it didn't go. I only put two W's in there. I was taking you, we've done a case study. So if there's anybody watching this that would like to know, go and have a look at the case study we've done on that. It's got every YouTube we did from August 2019 saying there's something going on. There's something going on. I don't know what the story is going to be, but oil is going single digit. It's going sub 10 into single digit, possibly more, but at least single digit test technically. And that was, you go to our results. I want to go find the oil. You go to the marketsniper.com. Every YouTube, every chart image that I did on everything, you will see it in there. Case study, single digit oil case study. There it is. I'll drop the link for you, Lane, and you're
By the
welcome
way,
to share that with the guys.
explain that that means oil is worthless. It went pretty much worthless, right? I mean, there was actually giving it away at one time, right, Francis?
Well, what happens is the cash market, you were still paying for it at the pump.
That's
Don't
right.
forget, you don't get the deal. But in terms of the internal mechanisms of the market, the futures, which is the derivatives market, remember that thing, derived from. It's not the actual, it's the derived from. Some point in the future, I want X million barrels of oil delivered at this location. That's a contract. What ended up happening is everybody got locked down, is that everybody had too much oil, and you had a glut situation. And that then brings up the cost of holding oil in the practical sense. And then everything was held. It costs you to hold oil. And there was not insufficient consumption now because there's no more flying, there's no more anything. Everybody's staying at home. People are driving about 10% of what they did. So what you end up going from is you get a major overshoot to the downside. So markets are emotional, but that carry cost of someone sitting and taking delivery, even if he was paying $0 for it, where does he put it? He has to pay for storage, he has to pay for everything, and he has no guaranteed market for it because everybody's stuffed to the gills and everybody's saying, got oil to sell, got oil to sell. and you're going, well, thank you, we got enough over here.
And you
And
saw
then
that
you have a problem with limited storage.
how far in front of the event of COVID.
Yeah, so this is one of our charts. So this is the case study. This is one of our charts saying this is now broken at that point. And we were saying in our YouTubes throughout this that you're going to go to down here, single digits levels. And then we said, that's it, it's now. So I put that chart on. That was the triggering event. By the way, that was still in 2019. It wasn't yet 2020 yet when that triggering happened. We stood on a stage with Jeff Berwick, if you're familiar with
Mexico.
him.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was in him before you.
Yeah, we did this.
Acapulco.
We told everyone on Acapulco in February we're going single digit oil, and they were like,
unheard of.
And I was in another event where we repeated it, and there's videos where we recorded saying that. This was right at the beginning when I was in northern Cyprus, and I was talking about the oil situation on a YouTube and how I felt something was coming. And this is also, there's some backdrop. We have, for some reason, oil's become a market for us because we previously called a very big collapse on oil, and this was during 2014. And you know what the common denominator was? Russia and Ukraine. I don't know if you remember the Maidan Square events, the original
I remember listening to that
government in Ukraine to a puppet US-controlled government via the combination of Soros, Newland, and a variety of other players. And that should have been a war and a runoff. And we were in a setup here for oil, squeezing. We talk about trading the squeeze. We expect low volatility. And that was a day. And when I saw it breaking through the downside at about 106, we said, yeah, we're flipping bearish on this. It's definitely going lower, and then it's going to outperform this, and it'll have overperformance. And this was the chart we released. This was in 2014. And it was so ironic that we were actually calling another short, and we're now, only for us now later to be in another Russia-Ukraine type environment. So this was demand-destroying event. And instead of going up, it clearly it crashed down, and it went lower than the lows down here of the post subprime. That's 2008. So that was an extreme move. So we'd already got some history. We said you're going to overperform to the downside on this. And it just happened, we're watching, and it was giving us the pattern and the structure when we needed it. So it was a super interesting story. And we go into the technical details on balance, volume, and all other aspects when we're short. And I remember CNN saying, wow, and here's this hedge fund that was really early on calling oil short. They called, they went short at $92. And I was like, man, these guys were like $12 late as far as I'm concerned. But we'll never get on CNN Money and be those guys. And we associated this with Plains All American, which is a US-based pipeline company. And we had a similar technical structure as well. Plains All American was in a similar structure. And we said, you know what? It's coming up here and it's at $26. We think it's going to $3. Now, we make real ballsy calls and we get to be wrong. But we also get to be right on really big moves. And that's as a market cap decimation. I never see any banker or equity analyst coming out and saying, hey, this company is going to get a 95% decimation in market cap. It's going to be literally worth 5 to 10% of what it once was. And that's what we aim to do. And big charts give you big moves. And we are macro technical. We look at the charts. We're saying this is a classic hunt volatility funnel pattern. You'll know a little bit about what that is because you're a regular watcher on the YouTube. The other guys, what's he talking about? Yeah. We expect a special squeeze and a break up or a break down, and this was in our category of downside breaks. So it coincided with the oil collapse because here we have a related business that is staring into the barrel of oil no longer being much of a valuable commodity for an extended spell. So you don't want to be the pipeline that's providing it because you don't get to extract the same money if the value of it is a lot lower. And that's a US stock.
And I got a question, and this is why I think you're different on this. Because listen, when I first started listening to you, I was the charts, all that stuff was too much. But what I like about it, and what I think makes you different, and I want to hear your opinion on this, seeing the reset. You put your reset glasses on, you can look at that chart. Now, if I'm, if I'm whatever, Ray Dalio, or, one of those guys that have to pretend they can't really even talk about it or see it, or even the guys who are just clueless of the reset side of things, how much are they losing, or how much more of an edge does that give you? I don't really hear you talk about that a lot, because how many people do we know that trade chart?
100% gives me an edge. I'm an
Yeah.
absolute cynic in terms of all major stream media. I don't take anything that I get as factual unless I've tested it myself through sources that I like. I apply the inversion perversion law. Anything Tony Blair says or Henry Kissinger, you almost literally invert it.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of the United. So I know who all
How
the
much money has
Rockefeller.
that? Yeah. How much of an
Yeah,
edge does that give you?
worthless.
I mean, it's everything, right?
Herald, it's priceless. I mean, it's priceless of value. I mean,
Yeah.
just to answer your story, there was an alleged, so oil was falling and they conjured up some fake story. And I'm straight away, that's a fake story. I don't believe it. My default is it's a lie. If it's coming out of the lying mouth, my default position is it's a lie until proven
Yeah.
value.
You start seeing smoke, so you start looking harder, right?
100%. And we were short oil and it was starting to fall. And they conjured up in Saudi, which is a frenemy of Israel and America. It's absolutely part of the axis of control. And Aramco got a drone strike. They were trying to pump oil and it literally ran our stop out on my original short. So we show you, we traded this. That's a trade platform. You can click that image if you're enjoying this.
Yeah.
It's on our website.
You knew it wouldn't last. Like when you see that, you know it's not going to last.
Yeah, we do something. If we say we're going short, we actually go in short. We mean that. If I say it to you, I'm a literal guy. I come from South Africa, a lot of hunters and the camo, and we like the guys from the south, very similar. If we're doing something, we say we're doing something. So the drone and missile debris pumped me out. I had to put it back on, and I took a little loss because I had a tight stop. But I said that it's an absolute psyop. They're trying to keep it up. They're buying time. They're not ready for it. And I went back in. That's called conviction. And that's conviction comes from looking at charts and seeing correlations across everywhere and knowing that that's got to at some point go down. It's just the fact of we're kind of early and there's always a little bit of flutter. Like everybody who told you to buy gold and silver and it wasn't going up. Only suddenly now it's going up.
Wrong. I love this part. We quote you all the time. Wrong till you're very damn right.
Still very damn right. Exactly.
If you're gonna go long, you gotta be ready to be wrong, right? And at the end of the day, you're not wrong. Of course, we knew that the whole way. Even
just
with
early.
Silver and gold.
Some people will say early is wrong, but not always. And as long as you have the conviction to keep putting it on. So this case study then rolled out. What also was happening, and I know these guys talk and control, so I look for common narratives and threads. At the same time, many people don't know this about this, is that Aramco, largely the Saudi ruling family, that they had owned all this oil. It was over $1 trillion market cap. You're talking, that was when Apple was only just getting there. You're talking about a resources-rich company that had the market cap essentially of the likes of the Magnificent Seven. And they suddenly decided, just before all these events, that they were going to be benevolent. The Saudis, those are the ones
they're very nice.
They chop women's heads off if they've, they get teenage pregnant. They bury them in the ground, they stone them, and then chop their head off. That medieval. They're like the Israelis, as far as I'm concerned. The Israelis are the technological medieval, and they're just the basic cut of the real garden variety medieval murderers. And as you saw from that, we saw that they were suddenly decided to do something so benevolent and kind. They thought, hey, it's time we let the wealth be shared with the citizen. And they did a massive rights offering where the citizens of Saudis could buy the shares, and they listed the company.
I remember you calling that. Yes, I remember you calling that. I remember you saying it before it was happening.
100% reason why oil is going to go down and the value of that company is going to crash down. So they ride the escalator, take all the income, manage like this elite Saudi class with their harem, and they go over with Bugattis to drive around London in summer, and they carry on living like lords, not caring pittance for their citizens. They suddenly develop a conscience just before the oil price is about to fall through the floor. They do a major listing. They say, here, bag holder, hold my bags. And then they all get flushed out at the bottom. And guess who was probably back there buying the shares for 1/10 of what they had issued them for,
Yeah.
and making another doubler. You've got to understand these people will never miss an opportunity to rape others financially, fiscally, socially, and in every other possible mechanism. And if they have inside information is a fact, not a rumor. Chinese walls is a myth. It's as good as the wall that's standing on your southern border right now, which isn't. It's completely opaque. It's completely translucent. I mean, people can look through it, they can run through it, it's invisible. There are no walls. The top tier class enrich themselves perpetually at your loss, and the peasants are the perfect patsies that don't understand the rules of the game to get gang raped. And in this one example,
you brought up
everyone can
Chinese.
look at the Saudi population and say, yeah, they were bag holders for their uber rich. And the uber rich gave it to them just in time for the collapse and picked it back up on the cheap later. Now, I'm saying to you, how different do you think it is for you in your country? Do you really think it's different? You say, well, we're not Saudi Arabia. We have rules. We have laws. We got some corruption, but, no.
It's coming up for sure. Hey, I got a question for you. You brought up China real quick, and I know we're running up on time, but Kyle Bass, I listened to a little bit of Kyle Bass, and, I don't know what to think about Kyle Bass. I know he bashes China a lot, but he said something really interesting. He's super anti-China, and I don't know if you're familiar with a lot of his stuff, but he said, and I'm going to mess this up, people like Ray Dalio is like one of the biggest buyers of the CCP or whatever, and he said that if you look at, I guess, their S&P or whatever it was in China, their main one 15 years ago, if you would have bought it, it's like down 50% or 60%, but their GDP's up like 500%. And they were just talking about communism, and you always talk about watermelon communism and the green on the outside, and then just saying that communism doesn't work, and just how your gurus here, your Ray Dalios that push China, and nobody calls them out on it. And I'm a dumb grass cutter from Alabama, and I'm sitting here jumping up and down as I listen, because I listen to you, and then I listen to Ray Dalio, and I just don't understand how he can, even with the conscious, or even with the rationality of how he can pump a communist country. It gives me chills to realize that how I guess just how delusional people are, and just what a zombie land we live in, But I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Such a good question, by the way, and I do want to answer it. The best way they control you is by keeping you in a nationalist mindset.
Totally agree with that. Your
enemy is not bound to one country. He is a shapeshifter. He is an ephemeral smell that wafts in and wafts out. He is an absolute transnational class that will use a nation state for a while and exert it, and it'll be an alpha state like America's been, dominant currency, dominant military industrial complex. It will burn you up, strip all the lights, the fittings off the wall, and leave it a scorched earth wreck, and strip the assets out into vehicles that are corporations that are transnational, such as BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, which will start owning and buying shares in other countries, and the shareholders and everything will be. And I've seen this firsthand, by the way. I saw the same owners of the gold and diamond mines in South Africa get their London listings, take the wealth with them, and share that. There was no Mandela wanted to go communist. He had the SACP with him, and that just didn't happen. The rich got to keep their wealth, and this was Rothschild banking. It's Oppenheimer that they're recently celebrating, same clan that did the nuclear weapons, that did a burnt offering of a few 100,000 Japanese. They already were ready to sign unconditional surrender. No, we wanted to test our bomb, and high-fiving on burning and killing civilians. Now, you might think, what do I care about, somebody with a yellow skin or looks Japanese compared to me? I don't care. They shot at our guys. No, in war and in real fights, they get you to do barbaric things. You have to retain principles throughout the most extreme, emotionally manipulated situations. That could involve your grunt soldier friend in Vietnam being shot, etc., etc. You don't go kill women and kids in a village. And that was every war they get us into these base barbaric states, and it's nationalism that does that. And this is my issue with Kyle Bass. By the way, let me just say, before everyone thinks I'm a China apologist, I would much rather be in a world where America was the dominant, with American people was the dominant power, than anything to do with Chinese and China. I've never cared to visit that place. The Beijing
Don't
skies
blame
and
you.
the pollution scare the bejesus into me. They've been suppressed, and they are compliant by understate to such a level it terrifies me. The social score. So let me just be clear on that. Thank God, it's been the American way, and I think we'll look back very sadly on that era and recognize that relatively we were free. So that's first stated. But people that play the nationalism game on their financials, Kyle Bass does it,
Yeah.
Ben Johnson is doing it all the time, and everything. And it's kind of like our shit don't stink, but theirs sure does. And this is what they're essentially saying. They'll go China snake. It's a communist country. They'll put out whatever they damn well say they need to put out, and they'll meet the recognition that they need to. But guess what's happening? They were a communist country that has taken on capitalistic and free market aspects for functioning. They're a mixed economy, but government-wise, it's communist. You are a capitalist country once that is becoming a communist country.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah, for
But
sure.
we're talking about the classic thing of thesis, capitalism, free market, which is getting a bad rap for all the sins that are happening now. It's got very little to do with that. I'll come back to that if you want to. And communism. And then what they get is so you have thesis and antithesis, or antithesis, as some people say. And when you compare these two, the one merges more towards the other. And you get synthesis, which is their end goal all along.
That's the whole thing, right? That's the whole world. Like you've said, this is what I see is everybody, well, like they said, they're hollowing out the middle class, and even that goes for countries as well, right? They're trying to make the wealthier poorer, and the poor they're acting like they're trying to bring up, like obviously with China, to where we're all the same, right? We're all poor, right? And they're doing that. They're doing that here. They're doing that here as well with food stamps, for instance. If I don't work, or if I don't have enough money so they raise up 25% of their income. They're not sending me any, so they're hollowing out the middle class. They're making us all poor, all dependent, so we can all. And I think they're doing that on a global scale, as you would say.
That's a Bolshevik. You see, that's what you're describing is the synthesis, which is their end goal. So if I want B as an outcome, I go, here's A, and here's C. Fight. A says C is garbage. He's much more honest and real. His stats never lie. Dollar's super strong. C says, we make all your shit, bud, and you don't sell anything to the rest of the world.
So we're just going down.
No. Fight. And then what you end up is you get the oligarchical corporation, which supposedly comes from capitalism. It doesn't. It's fascism. So fascism is the definition of fascism is a corporatocracy of mega corporations that are in hands with government, that are instituting things through on the surface a private entity. So Google,
so everybody's got
example.
an iPhone.
Microsoft is an example. Amazon is an example. All the surveillance finance companies. Palantir is an example under Peter Thiel that is working with a military industrial complex on all these many surveillance mechanisms for watching you, whatever, chips in the body. Elon Musk. And I'm a South African. I'd love him to be a champion, by the way. He's not.
Elongate. No. Actually, the coincidence, I'm actually using Starlink now. So I apologize, Francis. I apologize, but we're actually having to use the others. We got the white knight, Francis from South Africa, but then we got the dark horse from Elon.
We've got to use their stuff. We are in this matrix. You've got to use it against them and in your favor, but you've got to recognize you're using it. Listen, YouTube has made me. But boy, I don't like that Google company and anything that goes down. And that whole do not do evil, that message that suddenly got changed. There's nothing that stinks up the place more than them. They never faced any antitrust. So let's just summarize, because I was talking about the synthesis. If you understand where they're taking you. Stephen Covey, a great author, says, begin with the end in mind. So if you want to weigh, 250 pounds, be 8% body fat, and be able to, squat in a certain amount, and you're currently 120 pounds, you've got to go, okay, I need to meet all these benchmarks. How much time do I need? And you have milestones. You create
That's right.
milestones,
Yeah.
what I need to do, what I need to eat. Are you doing this clean, or are you going to cheat?
That's
All of
right. Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
decisions have to be made, and off you go. As someone who works out a lot and realizes that yourself, I've noticed from your Instagram that says we need to be fit and strong, and I 100% agree with that. That should be a goal for all of us. I don't care to be 250 pounds, by the way, but I mean, at least be fit and able and lean
I'll
and
say
not do
this
anything
much.
destructive.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. By watching you, even before I changed my journey, you always practice that. You always preach that. Getting out. You're always riding the bike and all that. So I want to give you credit for a lot of that too. The inspiration on that of, hey, you got to get out, because I focused on money and I let it run me in the ground. And I know you probably had that ADHD was running. I knew I had to have
Yeah,
security for my family. And if you don't take care of that health, and you always actually practice that and preach that of getting outside, always on the bike. So
100%.
I've always, I
And
give you
to
credit
build
for that too.
wealth,
Yeah. And eating that,
sometimes the best thing
it,
you can do is
it's,
get up, make your bed, and do 10 push-ups to
it's
build wealth.
everything. Yeah. So I do want to give you credit on that for inspiring me on that, because you were doing that way
Appreciate it.
before
Yeah.
me. So go ahead.
Yeah. So health and mentality, you can't brute force making money. You need to have the right mentality. You need to be in
Method,
control of your features. You
method.
need to be in a good physical
Yeah.
state generally. And in fact, what I was going to say is you're going for an obstacle course, guys. You're about to start one of those SEALs training obstacle courses where you're going to be climbing nets, crawling through mud. Someone's going to be yelling and shooting at you.
That's
They're
right.
going to try and instill fear as their product. Their product is fear. That makes you malleable. That gets them calling the shots. That's getting you to where to sit and how to do. They use this very effectively. The forcefulness of CV19 confirmed to me that it was a bad thing. You don't ever have to ram food down your kid's mouth when it's mealtime. You don't ever have to force them to play TV games, do you? When it comes to that, you just saw the coercion was up front and in there. The
Crazy.
whipping of grannies sitting on
Unbelievable.
park benches. You shouldn't be sitting out here. If you've got somewhere to go, you should be walking. You saw it in Australia. You saw it in Canada. You saw it probably in your own country.
100%. And listen,
The
people go, people, Francis, I don't know if you're from, they cut it off. They act like it didn't happen. People will try to erase that from their memory about how they behaved and what they thought about, and how they, it's like forget about it. It's like the I guess like the husband that beats the wife, it's that Stockholm syndrome. They really love me, right? Just pretend like it didn't happen. And that's what I see. That's what I see all around. It's like, you guys
that
are
is
acting like
it's
this
a
didn't happen.
post-traumatic stress. Coping mechanism is to put distance between it and not think about it. So, and what you should be doing is demanding hangings and court trials for all those that perpetuated that.
Yeah.
You need to create the adverse feedback event that makes them think doubly twice before they come again. Because the way you're currently reacting, the world, to
Yeah.
this crisis,
Nothing.
for
Like it didn't
not
happen.
doing that is absolutely they've got away with it. And how do they do it better next time?
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you,
It's
they're
gonna be
busy
worse.
preparing to do it better next time. Tacitly approving their course of action, and they will continue.
Yeah.
So let me say it again, because maybe it sounds like fancy language. Sometimes I talk sort of BBC English, and sometimes I need to just put it like street English. If you let them pull shit on you, you are saying it's okay for you to do that, pull some more.
Yeah.
If you bite back real hard, that hurts them like hell, you're saying every time you think of doing that, expect a consequence that could be exceedingly painful for you.
Yeah. What's the
Now,
what's
which
the
one
quote?
is the one that determines that the politicians are acting for you or against you? In either case, they're working against you, but they're going to be a whole damn more careful
Yeah, the Gulag
in option
Archipelago.
2.
I think it was in Russia. They said if we would have just shot them, if they said if we'd have just shot them when they come to the door, we'd have never had to go through the all the Russian the Bolsheviks there. That's what they always said is if we would have just shot the few of them at the very beginning, we'd have never had to deal with anything. So it's kind of the same thing with the pushback stuff,
So the
100%.
technology is going to bring surveillance finance, intrusion in your private life, real-time taxation on a digital blockchain that's going to take your money before you've earned it. They're now talking about unrealized capital gains.
Yeah, that's
Or how
what
much
I
will
had
they
a guy
give you
explain
back?
that. Yeah, I had a guy explain that too. Hey, real quick, if you got just say explain what that means because people don't want to know. I mean, give me just an
So they're talking
analogy,
about
make it
unrealized
simple.
capital. So let's just say you're a small guy, but you got a bit lucky. You bought some Bitcoin. at $3,000 before the 2017 run up to 20. So everyone knows that history. And let's say you put 10 grand in, or in actual fact, in that year, you could have bought for sub 1,000. Let's say you put in 10 grand at 1,000, because it traded at 1,000 in that year. It finished the year in the blow off cycle at 20. And let's say you were super smart and you sold it at the top, 20 grand. You said, wow, I've never had 200 grand to my name in my life before. This is freaking awesome. You're still, well, no, let's say you still hold it, but the top was the end of the year. It was December. So what technically they can do is, and this goes for houses and every asset, by the way, anything you own.
Well,
you buy a car
everything
and
you
it
think
turns into be
everything
a
you think you
car
own.
that goes up in value and becomes a vintage or whatever the case may be. Anything. Gold as well. All of this, it goes up, you've made a capital's gain. So in the Bitcoin case, it went up to 20K. Let's say you continue to hold it. That was the end of the year. You guys have a calendar year tax. They will look at you and say, you put in 10, you made 200 at the end of the year, you were 200 grand to the good. Minus your 10, you made 190 grand. You owe us tax on $190,000 at Biden's 44 point whatever percent that he wants to make. Now, at the moment, I think that's for high net worths only, but they're going to bring it down. It always starts for rich only. You know, that's how they say,
you got to get everybody on board.
We won't mind. You know, it's called the thin edge in the door strategy. It starts that way. So the British
those rich
super
people
tax
own everything.
40%.
Yeah.
And they brought it in when only a small percentage and said it's just the rich only. And they got it in the door. You know, a nurse and a reasonably ranked policeman now pays 40%. And I can tell you, you and I in our lifetimes are going to work, are earning right now, or will earn a whole bunch more than a nursing sister and a constable in the British police. So that's how inflation works. It's called brackets creep. That's why they love inflation. Central banks do inflation because actually it's a silent tax on you. Not only do your goods and services go up, your salary has to go up just to have the same living standard, often goes up less. You've now gone from one working family to two people working. Go and check out Mike Maloney's dad, who was a storeman, and the wife stay-at-home mum, and how well they lived and the cost of things, to now understand how two people working and they still don't come out and they're dipping into credit card. But anyway, that's a separate issue. So the unrealized tax, Bitcoin crashed back down to 3 grand. By the time they make the claim, you've got a capital gains on 190 grand at 44%. Let's just say 50% for even sake. That means we owe the IRS, which, by the way, works for the IMF fund, not for the US. I did a whole bunch of tweets on that. So the US was declared bankrupt more than once, twice, and all the citizens' assets that were in existence were pledged as collateral by USA Inc., which is an incorporation company of that, for the rights with the central bank. And in actual fact, the great taking is literally that collateral being taken from you when they finish bankrupting the US again. So you don't even know that you've been ceded that. You were libertarian sovereign individuals under common law, and now today you are actually under admiralty law, which is why your US flag has a golden fringe around it if you're ever in court. It is admiralty, it is maritime law, and it's corporation. And on your birth certificate, you are the person with your capitalized name. But that's a separate, rabbit hole for us to go down.
And you help people with that real quick. On the plug with that, you actually help people figure all that out too, and you understand all the laws and how to keep from getting robbed.
Follow us on Twitter, by the way, at the Market Sniper, at the Crypto Sniper, or at the Market Sniper YouTube and at the Crypto Sniper YouTube. I would encourage them because there's lots of little bits of learnings that you might 100%. Find useful. And a lot of people watch this may be younger. It takes time to have the time to do all this reading and knowledge. You can get up to speed a lot quicker if someone else is explaining it to you than 100%. Reading all the books yourself.
Totally agree.
But I still encourage you to read. Going back to the unrealized, you now owe half of 190 grand, which was the high watermark of Bitcoin at December, in taxes. That's about $95,000. In the meantime, the Bitcoins crashed back down to 3 grand, and you're back at 10 grand. You've now got an invoice for unrealized gain at the time that it was taken.
Yeah.
of 200,000 that you had got in gains, and they get to choose the timing. So you owe them $95,000, and you have as an asset 10,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah. Now
You
do this
sell.
for the house. We could take that
Yeah,
same
so the
scenario.
same goes on. The
And
same goes on. The only deductible you get is what you spent if it goes up. Now, in an environment where in truth you are facing double-digit inflation. So another thing, Shadow Stats, US-based guy,
good stuff.
John
Good stuff.
Williams,
Yeah.
1980, Reagan Stats. That's their formula for calculating inflation, not what he thinks. It's not a bias. It's not, oh, I want to show the government up bad or anything. It's what they used in 1980. Foodstuffs, the parcels, the sizings, the everything. You get lies, damn lies, and statistics. And the way they cheat you about what the real inflation is about is they change the basket up every now and then. And they encourage retailers to do shrinkflation. So you used to have a standard family cereal box that had 500 grams in it, and now it has 450. And they used to do a shampoo for the ladies that did was 250 mils, and now it's 185. So they do shrinkflation, but the basket is kept the same, and the prices are and that's how they pass it on. As
what is it now,
your
Francis?
CPI is only at a certain level.
What is it now in the US? If you had to get like the up to date right now, do you know? Is it on the Shadow Stats?
So Shadow Stats, I was just on it, and your 1980, he tells you what your 1990 measure is and your 1980 measure. Join me in seeing it for yourself.
Yeah, this is very good.
Don't ever believe someone. Go and verify. So here you go. This is on the 1990 stats. This is 1990, not that long ago. You're just below 8. You're at about 7.75 on the blue. Whilst if you go on the 1980, you're at about 12.5. You see that? That's 15, and that's 10. And about 12.5% inflation as per the 80s measure. So that is double digit. So you are being killed by your money in the bank. It is a monkey on a grease pole. In its buying power, it is literally clinging onto the pole and slipping down. You're literally doing this.
And now it's to get.
And you're wondering why things get hard, because you are being stolen from, like the poisoners poisoning the well, by sleight of hand. A little bit of deceit, a little bit of poison, a little bit of mercury, a little bit of, let it build up in your system. Let it build up your system until the body's parts start failing. And then you die 6 months later, they're long gone. That is the way. This is always the sleight of hand murderer, the sleight of hand inflation stimulator, the sleight of hand burglar. They don't come and rob you and come and take your stuff, and you can have a shootout if you're awake or alert, and you actually get to defend your stuff. It is the sleight of hand theft. It's the sleight of hand fraud.
And the unrealized, on the unrealized tax, that at the end goal, they want to get you to rent everything. They want to get the goyim off the land, as you say. That is the end goal, right? It's the rent economy
and the tokenization. The Larry Fink that's so excited about tokenization is how eventually just register something as yours that has any value, you're going to have a token with it. They're going to start optional, and then it's going to become compulsory. They'll taper the old ways. You won't have a land registry with your property or anything else. You'll get everything online, all the documents put up, all put on a token on a blockchain, pre-packed for the next buyer. This is very important detail. Everything on it, all the searches, the land, and you'll have the token. And I could buy your token on your house and say, I'm now the owner of your property.
Yeah.
And you'll say, but I'm not selling. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to property tax us out of our homes.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to self-declare. And Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum has discussed this, or had it discussed with him by a chosen one Chicago professor, who said, we shouldn't have this ownership thing. Look at Uber. They don't own the cars. Look at Airbnb. They don't own the houses. There's a new way of living. It's a radical thought, thought. What you do, you just need a place to live. You don't need to own it. All the stuff. Come on. You can move. You can be more flexible. You can do this. Look at these corporations. This is their sales, the weasel sales pitch that they're going to come for.
Yeah.
And they will say, you must certify the value of your property. Yeah. And when you certify the value of your property to pay your property tax, someday, at any point, anybody thinks that's low ball value, they can automatically do a purchase of it, and then it will be an implied rental agreement in that you'll be turned into a tenant in your own home. They will never have to have visited it. They, of course, will have satellites, cameras on every home. They'll be hacking into Amazon's network every time. They'll be able to see what they're getting. Don't worry. they'll know. But they don't even technically be there. They buy the NFT for where I live. They
100%.
own that land. And I then get triggered into a rental clause. And when they control the token issuance, they can print up as much as they like. You can buy the world.
Yep.
If you're
And
just cutting up pieces of paper or
that's what they're
issuing
doing.
digitally,
Well, that's what they're doing now, right? I mean, that's what they're doing now by printing the money and the bonds. And anyway, they're doing it anyways. Another way. The one thing we have not talked about, which is the most important thing to me, and I think you as well. I know you preach this a lot. Silver, and I see this chart and I see the inflation. Now, tell me this: my pattern recognition here is in the 1980s is when silver went through the roof, and now it's the inflation is going back through it. Of course, I already know your answer to this. How do we protect ourselves from all this? Francis, you told me a lot of bad stuff. So what do we do? And I've been following your recommendation for years, and they've never let me down on buying the silver. I never felt bad. I've never went to purchase silver and been upset when I left. You feel good about taking action. And we talk about that to relieve the anxiety of what Francis has talked about. And this is what I realize why people don't take action, or because they don't know what to do. So they forget about it and not know it. So they don't think there's an option. And when I started taking steps or, buying property and silver and doing this stuff, my anxiety would relief, when I went in and buy it. And so this is what we're showing. I just wanted you to get in the inflation to really show people and understand what silver's doing and how much more. Obviously, even you would admit they're definitely keeping a can on it on the silver side of things and how they do that.
Yeah, I would say do a bit of both. Gold will run first, silver will run hardest later. Do a bit of both so that you don't sit feeling you've wasted your money, but there's nothing that doesn't feel authentic about a bar of silver. I mean, I keep a demo one somewhere around here, but I mean, it just feels terrific. It's legit. You can feel it when you hold it, and it's just real metal. It's honest. There's nothing fake or fraudulent about it.
Can we get you? I think we should get.
Whip it up.
I think we should get your head on the South African silver coin, like the Cougar Rand. You think we can? Who do we need to talk?
Yeah.
Can we talk to Elon Musk about that?
Yeah, elongated muskiness. I don't think he's a friend of mine. Every time he says something on Twitter, I'm biting him some crap. But yeah, I just think there's lack of authenticity.
100%.
And don't get dragged into this nationalist argument where it's this country versus that.
Totally
it's
agree.
A group of people that are controlling the world, and they move all around and they shape shift. And if you have to work out who that is, go have a look who's surrounding Biden. He's not running the country. You all know that. And you have to look at who went to China recently. What's his profile? What's it got? But anyway, once you've worked that out, remember they are devious. They wage war while pretending to be your friends, while making the world more safe for you. It's going to be safer. There will be no crypto hackers. It's going to be safer. We will have cameras here. It's going to be safer. You give up your liberty for safety, you deserve neither, and you will get neither. You will have an absolute wolf looking after the chicken coop, and that is the direction we're going. So how do we unblackpill this message? It's a psyop. It's an obstacle course. You're going to have to run it. Start preparing. Get physically fit. Get healthy. Have game theory. It's a game. You've been given an experience. That's it. You're a spirit in a body that's been given an experience. You can cry, get stuck in the headlights, get depressed, take pharma and support them. Or you can go, bloody hell,
100%.
I'm going to live the damnedest of my life every single day. I told everyone in my community, I'm giving you a 3-year lease on life.
100%.
And if you've executed well with the time I gave you, I will give you an extended contract. You have to live each life and each day, each month, each week, each year, as if it's your last. You start now and you prepare something towards being greater prepared from a draconian Bolshevik murdering class that has a history of absolute slaughter, and you make sure you're not going to be any easy picking for them. You get rural, you get community aware, you get local supply of key food chains, you grow some stuff, you get fit, you get strong, you pump up your mind, you spread your message, you live by example for everybody else, you buy silver and gold to protect against the proliferators that are going to crash and perpetuate a debt-based crash, a currency volatility, and all the intermediaries for their debt system, the bank-based crash. They're going to steal your money, they're going to steal your stock certificates, everything just taking. And you know what? You've got to be happy. In other words, you've got to have enough when that happens that you are relative wealth. And then you've got to be secure from all the other people that didn't plan, that you tried to help, that never listened, that are now zombie apocalypse members. And that's the game. You're in that movie. I'm sorry. That's the movie you've been chosen to play. That's the part. And Go play a blinder, be a survivor, be the one left standing at the end. Look after your family, make everybody aware, get preparing, get focused, build wealth, do things that spread the message, and you
Totally
will
agree.
find that you'll be invigorated. Let me tell you, having a common enemy is galvanizing. It brings people together. You need everyone to understand. You need the community to understand. You need to understand who the enemy is, that he fights a sly, guerrilla, sneaky bastard war on you in a financial level, a fiscal level, a physical level. He poisons you from a distance. This is who they are. This is where you are at. Nobody serves you truly at top government. Serve yourself. You are your own best servant, and serve your family next. And then serve your friends and serve the other community members. Get local, get organized. And with that, you can have many more weeks and days of great life, but expect chaos and mayhem around you. I say to Americans, have another bug out country. I say,
Totally agree.
unfortunately, the history of empires is the end of the empire is never good for that nation for an extended period.
What's your hot
Britain
spot
was
right now?
before America. They had the sick man of Europe all the way through the 60s and 70s. They had the Marshall Plan that they were paying off post the wars. Women were painting their legs with gravy. They couldn't afford stockings. That is the realm of it. It was austerity. You had one coat. You darned it. You knitted it. You did everything for it. That was austerity. There was we didn't have the globalization and little kids working in India to make you lots of throwaway items that you could wear for 3 years like we do today. But that was true austerity. It was a downdraft. And let me warn you, the Deagle stats say they want to thin the population out. Everything they do, you've got eugenicists in charge. They want a smaller platoon to manage. There's too many grunts that are useless, that don't know how to shoot. They want to cull them. Make sure you're not one of them by protecting and preparing. And that's my message to you. You follow us on the YouTube. I've got to go now, unfortunately. You follow us on YouTube and on Twitter. You can become part of our member of our community. I don't care. I don't mind. Just get galvanized, get motivated. It's a war. It's already started. It's against you. Many people don't even realize it's a sneaky bastard war. You've got to understand the rules, and you've got to start preparing so that the tricks they pull will not hurt you. Drink clean water. I distill every drop. Grow your own food, start getting there. But you can't do all of that in one day. Do just one micro thing.
One thing at a time.
Each day. Make a call to buy some seeds or something small. And then get a flower pot the next day. Do something so that at the end of the week, you've got 3 out of 5 working days or 7 working days where you've actually physically got something and moved it forward. Your weekends are planning and progress points. Sit there, plant some stuff, grow some things, learn out that actually it can be easy. You can move forward, have some failings, learn from them, do it better next time.
That's right.
That's it. Look after yourself. That's all I can say.
Hey, I appreciate everything. Listen, for all the years that you've given freely, if people just watched you and didn't pay you a dime, they could save thousands of dollars and make thousands. I told a guy the other day.
I'm totally happy with that.
And I told a friend of mine the other day, his son, college age. I said, listen, he could pay somebody like Francis, learn from him for 6 months a year, and he'd never have to work another job. And I believe that. I know that. For the way you make money and you but like I said, I really appreciate your giving spirit and actually being honesty, because it's very, very rare and it costs you a lot. They said you'll never get the truth from a cheap person. Listen, you give me double the time that I asked for, so I really appreciate that, Francis.
No problem.
So y'all follow Francis. I appreciate it.
Love to everybody watching. Stay safe.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.